which is, if you recall, if you're an avid listener, the end of the last episode, Seinfeld did a deep dive for us about the whole Travis Scott McDonald's thing. That was actually one time, I think, TC was neither way ahead of the curve nor way behind. I feel like we were actually like a surfer, perfectly, like friend of the show, Kyle Field, Little Wings. We were in repose on the board, just at the perfect moment, just, in tune with nature, because I feel like the burger had just hit, and I feel like the whole 2 weeks since, all I saw in my feeds, my various feeds, were nonstop Travis Scott McDonald's stuff. I feel like a lot of the jokes in Seinfeld, you know the most about memes here. Is this a correct interpretation? I feel like a lot of the memes were about like dorky white kids going to McDonald's and being like, Cactus Jack sent me. Was that like a dominant part of the discourse?
I feel like that was definitely like a TikTok trend for a minute, because I'll tell you that in McDonald's press releases and in their campaign, they used phrases like, tell them Cactus Jack sent you, and it's lit, which is like popular slang from like 4 years ago. And I think that, the kids you're describing found this very funny and would kind of go to drive-thrus. And there are videos of like guys rolling up at drive-thrus, harassing McDonald's employees and being like, it's lit, Cactus Jack sent me. On the other end, you have the like harried McDonald's workers being like there's one where the guy is like, oh, we're not playing around here. Like, what do you want kind of thing? Like not taking that nonsense from those kids. So yeah, it was definitely like a meme on that level.
You know what, young man? I've been on my feet for 12 hours, surrounded by the bizarre fumes of the McDonald's kitchen in this hot little box. It is far from lit. And also, Seinfeld, you've been keeping us abreast on the Time Crisis text thread. It does feel, in a large sense, like the things that we've been talking about for years on the program, it's like reaching some kind of climax now. Just things that would have seemed like an absurd joke, it's like beyond parody now. Because even the time, there's always been celebrity endorsements, right? And I feel like the kind of big musician, the Michael Jacksons, the Reba McEntires, I feel like she was on a bag of Fritos once. It's not unprecedented. But what's weird about it is just like the endless drops. Because you were sending us like, was it McRib shorts?
Yeah, that was the Lonnie's dad shorts, the McRib shorts. It was kind of absurd when we first talked about this 2 weeks ago. I was like stunned at how many different pieces of merchandise they were hawking through this collection. And what I didn't realize at the time was that was just week one of a series. Right. I think it was 3 or 4 weeks of drops. So we're talking like around 200 different pieces of novelty Travis Scott merchandise.
I can picture just like, we're old as we're on our deathbeds, very old men, and we just like flick on the hardwired Neuralink TV in our brains and just kind of see this image of like, I am Travis Scott III. When my grandfather began the collab with McDonald's in 2020, the world was in disarray. Thank you, President Barron Trump, for declaring.
Yeah. I mean, like at that point, McDonald's no longer serves food. They're only selling Travis Scott merch. Burgers were outlawed during President Ocasio-Cortez's first term.
Right.
And I mean, it's so hyper specific. Like the copy on the merch is like, I ordered the Travis Scott meal at McDonald's September 8th to October 4th, 2020. You could really buy like a memento of purchasing a McDonald's meal on a shirt that will.
That's the shirt in particular that feels one step beyond. Because also it costs like $80 or something. An $80 long sleeve that just says, I went to McDonald's. And then the dates of the Travis Scott run. Jake, it's funny, this idea of McDonald's just becoming Travis Scott merch stores, because it makes me think about, this is like the type of headline I remember seeing, and I was like, I don't even want to click on it. But it was like about all these abandoned malls becoming Amazon fulfillment centers.
Perfect.
I think there's just something about watching the transition from like one kind of buff thing to another buff thing.
Yeah, it's either going to be mega churches or Amazon fulfillment centers.
There's nothing about that feels like positive urban renewal, where it's like, oh, hell yeah. All these malls are centrally located in dense population centers, and a lot of them are sitting empty because people don't do retail anymore. And now they're finally coming back to life as Amazon fulfillment centers. You're just like, oh man, we're just zigzagging around a weird, uncomfortable existence.
How crazy is that we're just saying the term fulfillment center with no irony?
It's very physical
It's a fulfillment
release.
center.
Get your physical release at the fulfillment center.
Totally.
It's like a 2020 Billy Joel song. Anthony worked at the fulfillment center.
Have you guys seen those Amazon fulfillment trucks, the delivery trucks?
No.
I think so.
I saw one on the street the other day because Amazon has their own fleet of trucks. And it was like military grade, like a futuristic Brinks truck. It was like this cold, sort of dark gray color. And it had the Amazon logo with that arrow smile thing.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't make me feel good to see. I'll put it that way.
We're grasping in the dark here. We got from one weird version of the future to another weird version, and all the former McDonald's that are now full-time Travis Scott merch stores, that'll actually be like the last stand of like humans. And Travis Scott III will be like, my grandfather's dying words were, never let the Travis Scott McDonald's merch empire become fully automated. We make these McRib shorts for people, and they should be sold by people. And then it's like this weird war of like the RoboCop, the Amazon RoboCops versus just like the flesh and blood. Actually, that's a weird thing. I'm sure people have drawn this comparison before. Everything's like brick and mortar versus online. But brick and mortar has a real resonance with the phrase flesh and blood. Brick and mortar, flesh and blood, brick and blood. It's not enough for a store to exist IRL because there's these Amazon stores that nobody even works at. A true old school 20th century store has to be brick and blood, where it's made out of bricks.
Yeah. Also, like a new cocktail bar in Brooklyn
is brick and blood. Wait, or flesh and mortar.
Wait, Seinfeld, are there people posting pictures of themselves wearing the McRib shorts or the long sleeve that says you bought the Travis Scott meal during this window of time?
So my understanding is that those merch products do not ship for something ridiculous like 12 weeks. So
Okay.
I don't think anybody's actually like put their hands on one yet.
Part of the reason that obviously there's so much to talk about with the Travis Scott McDonald's collab, I think we might look back on that as kind of more than the election of Trump, more than the, founding of Facebook in 2004. This might be one of these like hardcore before and after moments in terms of American history, global history, corporate food history. But anyway, with all this discussion, as we were on the TC text thread, looking at some of the new merch items, Jake made a bombshell revelation. Actually, can somebody pull it up and see verbatim?
Yeah, this was after Seinfeld sent us an image of the McRib shorts, which it doesn't get more TC. And then there was like a weird phrase on the McRib shorts that caught my eye, and then I really dropped the bomb after that.
Seinfeld, I'm going to need a Travis Scott primer because it didn't come up last episode, but I have no idea who Travis Scott is.
When you say you have no idea who he is, I mean, you know more or less what genre of music he's in?
I honestly don't. I don't know if he's a DJ or a rapper. I'm guessing one of the two.
Okay.
Hasn't he been in the top 5 before? Like, we played Travis Scott on the show.
Well, I don't really pay that close attention.
Didn't we have an entire hour and a half runner of like Back to the Future Travis Scott, like an entire fanfic about this?
Oh, right. That was a while ago.
Well, but I guess, again, you could participate in that kind of story without truly knowing who. All you know is that this is a youngish, famous person.
Right. And I honestly am like 50-50 on whether he's a rapper or a DJ.
How come not a country dude? Travis Scott sounds like a country guy.
That's true. I saw like an image of him on stage at what looked like a large festival, which made me think maybe he's a DJ.
He's a rapper. I mean, it's very possible that he has DJ'd, but yeah, the simplest way to describe him, obviously he wears many hats, is a rapper. He was famously in a relationship with another famous person. They have a child. I guess they're not together anymore. Do you have any idea who his former partner was?
No.
Do you know who Kylie Jenner is?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard the name. I know that she's Kim Kardashian's sister.
Oh, yeah, all right.
Is that right?
Half-sister,
Is she the person that was the youngest billionaire for like having like a handbag line?
Yes, okay. All right. Yeah.
Okay, look at me.
Close. Wow, okay. Makeup line, right?
Yeah, makeup. She does lip stuff.
So you know she's an
Okay.
entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So two entrepreneurs in that relationship.
I guess my question is sort of like, so Travis Scott is a rapper, great. What is specific about him that makes McDonald's want to team up? Why not any number of rappers?
That's a really good question. I feel Seinfeld, you could feel that the best.
Well, I mean, definitely, I don't know if it's any more complicated than Travis Scott just being sort of, you know, one of the most popular rap artists of the time. And, you know, I remember when I was prepping for the McDonald's conversation, there was a quote from somebody at McDonald's who said that they were having trouble connecting with Gen Z. And so Travis Scott was sort of, this collaboration was one way to reach out to them.
I bet they paid him an ungodly sum.
For sure.
Which is a step beyond princely. He didn't merely get a princely sum, he got an ungodly sum. Because if I was at McDonald's, I admire that they went for it, but especially because, as we've discussed, the thing itself, the Travis Scott meal cost McDonald's literally nothing. Maybe a tiny bit of like extra barbecue sauce production or something, but it's like everything's there already.
They were already doing the breakfast 24 hours, so the bacon's already available.
They got the bacon, they got everything there, and
Sprite.
And they got the Sprite on deck. So I'm sure without having to spend any money on that stuff, and then the merch stuff pays for itself, it's almost like a life or death thing. Like you give Travis Scott $50 million, and if that makes a huge dent in terms of us connecting with a whole generation, creating a new kind of like loyal McDonald's customer, worth it. Easy. $100 million. It's probably somewhere in between. Maybe it's more like 30 or 40, but just like an insane amount of money.
Wow.
And I think also part of it, Jake, is that he is the most popular rapper. I just thought of like a way to describe him, I think. And I'm fairly out of the loop as well, because Travis Scott seems to really resonate. I mean, he's good. He's good. I've seen him perform live. We probably played 5 festivals last summer where we played right before Travis Scott.
No way.
Including in Poland. So I saw his show like a few times, and it's like he's a great performer, super high energy, just already a huge catalog of hits, a lot of really good songs, interesting visuals and all that stuff. One way that I think might make sense to describe him is if Kanye is Nirvana, he's Foo Fighters. Does this seem fair?
Ouch.
To people who know, Nick's. Well, no, hey, you said that, not me.
I know I said it.
First of all, Foo Fighters, Jake, you've admitted they have some great songs.
I wouldn't say great, but yeah.
I think in terms of him being more populous. Do you know what I mean?
Well, and also like less chaotic, to use an overused term. Nirvana, I mean, I hate to say it, but like obviously Kurt Cobain was a troubled person, right? And there was something inherently unstable about his relationship to fame. And so Nirvana, a lot of people might say there was like a type of more originality, a passion or something compared to Foo Fighters, but also a type of like chaos and a type of instability and suffering and, you know, the ups and downs of that kind of artist. Whereas like, you know, Dave Grohl is the front man. He's had this very long, successful career. I'm sure he learned a lot by like being in a band with somebody who, you know, he watched somebody suffer like that. And they're also probably just different people. But I think there's something similar about like the Kanye ricocheting up and down and left and right in terms of the popular opinion and what people make of him and whether people like him or don't like him. And his world is full of chaos. And Travis Scott just kind of like real down the middle. And I'm not saying that his music is boring. And I don't think Foo Fighters music is boring either. Like I said, I think they have great songs, but just like a kind of, I don't know, like a business acumen, a stability that their predecessors didn't really have.
I mean, it totally makes sense. I mean, Travis Scott's the one teaming up with McDonald's, not Kanye.
But not even just that. What I think might shed some light on it, when quarantine started, he started doing concerts in Fortnite, in the game. Like he saw, you know, that when you speak of Gen Z, he was the one who said, you know, I'm going to connect with like all these young kids that are playing this popular game, and I'm going to put on a concert in the game. To Ezra's point, I think that's sort of the business acumen and sort of marketing aspect of what he can do is pretty impressive.
And I think in a way, to keep beating my dead horse of a metaphor, and again, I'm not trying to like compare the music because I don't think that's fair, but there's a way in which the Foo Fighters and Travis Scott delivered on a set of ideas that respectively Nirvana and Kanye put into the universe, but in ways that were like unstable and ultimately chaotic. And I mean, obviously Kanye is doing fine, you know, compared to Kurt Cobain, who tragically took his life at such a young age. But like, if Kurt Cobain was somebody who was really interested in, could he marry a type of like punk rock idealism with an ambition? And, you know, like, I think we've talked about this before. Have you ever looked through his old journals? They like published a book of them, and it's like him as a teenager through his 20s, just like little scribbles and lyrics and stuff.
Yeah.
There's like a page somewhere where he's just like trying out logos and stuff, which is not dissimilar from stuff I've seen from Michael Jackson. Like when you watch a Michael Jackson doc and there's like literally a page from his notebook in like the early 80s where he's just like, study Fred Astaire, never stop practicing, sell 30 million albums, like visualizing a career path. And honestly, in the Kurt Cobain journals, there's little hints of stuff like that too. A guy like Kurt Cobain, probably on the one hand, he loved like the Melvins and
Beat Happening. Yeah.
Beat Happening and the Raincoats and Daniel Johnston, like weird indie stuff. But there's no way that Kurt Cobain didn't like Black Sabbath too and just like rock history stuff. You know, he might have had mixed feelings about it, but I'm sure
Creedence Clearwater. Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, some people even think that he took Smells Like Teen Spirit from Boston More Than a Feeling. And then, you know, people always talk about the pain and the confusion of his success for him was like, now there's these jocks in the audience. These are the people who used to beat me up and I don't with these guys. You know, like, again, I don't know how accurate this is, but that was the myth of Kurt Cobain, right? A sensitive guy who made this like aggressive music that connected with everybody. And suddenly he's seeing crowds full of, or partially full of meatheads, and he doesn't know how to reconcile all that. Because clearly he had split impulses. He wanted to be in a big, successful rock band, but he also was like a sensitive, anti-establishment punk rocker. And then like the Foo Fighters, you could say, was actually like a more stable synthesis. Dave Grohl ended up being a big, long-running, successful band. You know, whether Foo Fighters music is as aggressive as like Nirvana, that's a matter of taste. But he's like, let me go get Pat Smear. Pat Smear was in the Germs, right? So you know what I mean? In a sense, Dave Grohl is like, I can marry these things. Let me find a great dude from an iconic punk band who never got his due as a guitarist. Let me marry the Germs, in a sense, with like the Rolling Stones, a long-running kind of business-savvy rock band. Like, he put it together in a way that probably was clearly didn't happen for Nirvana. And I think in a way like Kanye, before Travis Scott was even making music, was out there talking about, I should be doing big collaborations with these big corporations. People look down on rappers. They should be delivering us these contracts that they give to other people, you know, and he made a lot of good points. But because his public persona was so controversial, it took him a long time to get to where he is. Whereas like the Travis Scotts of the world, probably because of everything that Kanye stirred up, can kind of slide in a pretty calm way and just being like, yes, McDonald's collab, let's do it. It makes sense that this is the moment.
That's fascinating. I mean, how long has rap been a genre? It like 40 years or so?
Yes. Yeah. Just about. A little more.
Can you picture a time before this time where a major corporation like McDonald's would have teamed up with a rapper?
Not like this. I actually remember I had a CD in the 90s. McDonald's used to like sell or give away CDs. And one was a compilation of hip hop. Let me see if I can find it, because it's actually really good.
Wait, McDonald's used to have CDs?
McDonald's made a CD that's called Hip Hop and Jazz from 1995. I could buy this CD on Amazon, a used one, for 94 cents. It's a pretty good deal. Let me see if I can find the track list. But on the front already, it says that the CD has Us Three, Jazzmatazz, Diggable Planets, The Soul Sonics, Joy, and Lonnie Gordon. You know, I'm sure somebody listening who's like a real like 90s hip hop head might be like, that's not that cool. But even then, somebody at McDonald's was like, we should make a CD that highlights the intersection of hip hop and jazz and sell it.
Is Travis Scott the first musician? I mean, I guess like he's the first person they've done a big collaboration with since Michael Jordan. Is he the first musician to straight up to do like a huge collaboration like this?
Maybe a huge collaboration.
You could kind of picture like in the 70s, like maybe Kiss, but Kiss was maybe too like dark and weird.
I'm sure we've probably got somebody listening at home who's off the top of their head is thinking of all sorts of like, well, actually, McDonald's did a commercial with this rapper in 19... I'm sure there's examples, but I think you're right. There's something about this that feels slightly new. And it might just be about the fading fortunes of McDonald's, relatively speaking, that it's not just them like, you know, oh, we could sell a CD, a hip hop CD to maybe show people we're down. You know, we could do a commercial and have some... There's something about this that actually feels like, and again, I assume he got paid an ungodly sum, but there's a funny way in which this kind of feels like McDonald's like bowing before Travis Scott and saying, please help us.
Oh my God.
It's not like when Nike gives somebody a partnership. That's just what you do when you become like a big athlete. You get a few offers and you go with Nike. It's like, it's par for the course. There's something about this that does feel like it's bigger, it's more in depth than any kind of just endorsement or commercial that I could think. I think part of also what's so like remarkable about it, and maybe also like we were always heading in this place in terms of, you know, late capitalism, collab culture, society of the spectacle, postmodernism. I'm talking about things I only half understand now, but one thing I do understand is that for the past 50 years, there have been a lot of people talking about the way our cultures change and how everything's mediated by images and spectacles and, you know, what's that phrase some people use, like pseudo events, kind of post-truth, postmodern world that we live in, we're all familiar with, which has only been exacerbated by social media. But there's something funny about this, especially where it's like, we've talked about the Arch Deluxe on the show before, right?
Yes.
So just a recap for anybody listening who somehow doesn't remember what the Arch Deluxe is. That was in the late 90s. McDonald's launched a new burger called the Arch Deluxe, and they poured millions and millions of dollars into researching it, developing it, and then marketing it because they felt like they needed a new burger to get more grown-ups in. Kind of the opposite of this. They needed a burger that felt a little classier, a little more elegant. It had a big fat tomato on it. It's hilarious to think like some marketing firm or research group paid like $20 million and they came back and they're just like, hey, McDonald's, we just realized something. They're like, what? None of your burgers got a big fat tomato slice on it. Your regular burger has all this weird chopped up shit. Big Mac is like shredded lettuce and goo. What a grown-up associates with a burger is a slice of tomato.
I mean, they're saying to McDonald's, hey, can you like up the standards of your sourcing a little bit?
Right.
Because like to have a big slab of tomato, you need to have like nice ass tomatoes.
And I'm sure that's like an insane investment for them because it's like suddenly they need a whole new distribution network. Wait, does a regular McDonald's burger literally not have tomato on it? Just ketchup?
Like
And the pickle.
Yeah, it has pickles and chopped up onions.
No tomatoes.
No tomatoes on a Big Mac?
No.
Okay, so
shredded lettuce. Shredded lettuce, no tomatoes.
If you have tomatoes, you need to have your staff slicing tomatoes at in the morning. Like normally, I think everything at McDonald's would come in like vacuum sealed bags that you just open.
It would just kill the margins, is what you're saying.
It would kill the margins and slow down their famously fast process.
Yeah, you would need to like have a guy slicing tomatoes for 2 hours in the morning.
Or every location would need some special tomato slicing machine that costs $8,000. Yeah, McDonald's not with tomato slices, even though go to any backyard barbecue, there's often going to be a plate with some slices of American cheese, onions, and tomato. It's very much part of the American burger experience. But yeah, like you said, suddenly it's like, we want tomatoes. And McDonald's is like, literally, they're talking to the Seinfeld 2000 of McDonald's. The CEO is just like, let me get a number crunch. And he's just like, we're looking at $89 million for the first year, sir. And he's like, can you amortize that over a decade if the Arch Deluxe is a hit? Okay, then we're in the black, sir. Because, yeah, like, it's like the new trucking routes, having to go find the farms, and like, sir, I don't know, it's going to be tough in the Dakotas to get the Arch Deluxe. It's like, all right, whatever. It was a lot of money to reach a new audience.
Just for the record, the full Arch Deluxe makeup, the ingredients were a 1/4 pound of beef on a split top potato flour sesame seed bun. So that's like a different bun.
A new bun.
New bun, topped with a circular piece of peppered bacon, leaf lettuce, tomato, American cheese, onions, ketchup, and a secret mustard and mayonnaise sauce. That's a new sauce.
Imagine the guy pitching that and you work in accounting. You're about to vomit when you hear all that stuff.
How
You know,
great
actually-
would it have been? I'm sorry, but how great would it have been if when they were saying to Travis Scott, "All right, their deal's basically closed. They're at the final yard line." They said, "All right, what do you want?" I want Sprite. Great.
Sprite instead of Coke.
Sprite instead of Coke. Great. I want the fries to come with a barbecue dipping sauce. Great.
We got that.
And great. And the tomato. That's what I grew up with. I love a tomato on my burger.
They're just like,
and it's just like, and they all
Deal breaker.
silent.
No, but the genius of the Travis Scott meal was it was his version of a McDonald's meal.
No, of
He's
course.
not
it's his version.
Yeah,
No, well, actually,
he's not bringing any outdoor ingredients.
I was going to make a similar joke that before McDonald's went to Travis Scott, they went to me, and I had a very similar meal. And they said, "What is it?" And I said, "Okay, Sprite instead of Coke. All good. Barbecue sauce instead of ketchup. Easy." And then I said, "And bacon on the quarter pounder. No problem." And I said, "Well, hold on a second, though. I need a big piece of circular peppered bacon, like the one from the Arch Deluxe." And they said, "Well, you know, we can't do that. Obviously, the Arch Deluxe almost bankrupted us. We don't have that circular peppered bacon anymore. We could use regular bacon." And I said, "It's got to be circular and it's got to be peppered." And they said, "We're going with our runner-up, Travis Scott." And that's how I lost $75 million. But when I think about the Arch Deluxe, when you think about how much money went in for the circular, you got to get the machine that cuts the bacon in the circle and the pepper. It's so expensive. And that's like some old school where somebody was like, we need to save this company by adding a new thing that's going to get new people in the door. What's brilliant about this, and back to this, like the society of the spectacle, everything is just like a vague gesture at something, nothing's real. What's amazing about this is Travis Scott comes in with a similarly exciting idea, except it's nothing. It's like doesn't exist. It's literally just the celebrity saying, go to McDonald's and order something that you could have been ordering for your entire life, but you never thought of it because you don't actually like Sprite and you actually like to have your fries with ketchup. But now I'm telling you to go just ask for this random shit. And on top of that, here's a website full of clothes that you can order, but they don't even exist yet. And they may or may not get to you in 3 months. I just love that none of it exists.
How many people went into and ordered the Travis Scott meal and then asked if they could have ketchup?
Right.
And also
actually-
sub it out for a Coke.
I watched a video or somebody posted on Instagram. I think this must have been Bill Simmons is the Ringer guy.
Yeah.
I always want to call him Bill Walton because it's sports. It's funnier to imagine Bill Walton, but he kind of like filmed his son as they pulled into McDonald's. He's like, I'm going to McDonald's for the first time in years because my son wants this Travis Scott burger. And he's kind of making fun of his son for like taking
I saw
that.
this, yeah.
And one thing I clocked in the video is that they pull up to the drive-thru and he's like, can I get the Travis Scott meal? And they say like, what do you want to drink? And the kid's like, a Coke. And he's like, or they ask him like, do you want a Coke or Sprite? And he's like, Coke. So it's like already the sacred meal has crumbled. It's like religion. It's just like an esoteric idea that by going to McDonald's and ordering something that already exists, you are somehow participating in the cult of Travis Scott. And then you look at the clothes, and it also wouldn't shock me with like the McRib shorts. We've talked about this before. Travis Scott sells a load of merch. Maybe a lot of people are trying to buy it. But also, it wouldn't shock me if they didn't even actually make the McRib shorts. They just created it so that people like us are like, holy shit, they made McRib shorts. So I just love the idea that like maybe Travis Scott, he's very savvy, smart guy. Maybe he studied the history of McDonald's and he went into them and said, hey guys, just slip in a little bit. I've actually done a lot of research on the whole Arch Deluxe debacle. By my estimate, you lost hundreds of millions of dollars on that, all that bullshit. I can get you a very similar amount of hype and clout. I only need a tenth of the money. And they might have been like, hell yeah, like let's do it. You know, like,
Yeah.
he's like, none of this shit even has to exist. It's amazing. It's like nothingness.
I guess this show should do its due diligence and follow up and try to order the McRib shorts.
Do we have the budget for that?
I think the drop is over. I think you'd have to go on StockX, where, by the way, I've seen these items for resale at like 2 and 3 times the value that they were being
But I
sold.
thought people don't even have it yet. This is like, wait, Uh-oh.
Futures.
And this sounds a lot like the 2008 financial crash where people were... Wait, what are all those funny big short words? People are purchasing tranches of Travis Scott McDonald's speculative merch and reselling it, and they don't have it. And then if there's like a StockX margin call... Wait.
Right.
I feel like I'm vaguely using these words. Who's our finance guy on the team? Who knows the most about finance here?
Not me.
No.
Maybe Nick. Nick,
No,
you finance guy?
no, I'm absolutely not a finance guy.
No, but the best part would be them breaking up the shorts into millions of pieces.
Right.
What is that? When they like rebundle?
Right. It's like the New York Firefighters Retirement Fund
Has invested.
invested tens of millions of dollars in this Travis Scott thing, and it went up in smoke. It was a full Madoff. Yeah, it's just
It's so made up. The shorts didn't even exist.
It didn't even exist. You're trading tiny pieces of merch tranches so small and esoteric you didn't even know what it was. And meanwhile, there's some poor schmuck, some poor kid in Florida sitting in his house waiting for these shorts. And you know what? That kid's... These are real people's lives. Do you understand what we're talking about?
It's real clout. It's real clout we're talking about. Just as a footnote, McDonald's spent over $300 million on research, production, and marketing for the Arch Deluxe,
It was $300 million?
according to Wikipedia.
Holy So even if they paid Travis Scott $75 million, and again, this is 20 plus years ago, I love it. Just nothing exists.
I just want to say, for Jake not knowing really much about Travis Scott, I have had this thought for real in the past that like Travis Scott didn't really exist. And you can't say that about a lot of artists, but because of the Cactus Jack and because he's all the face covering, and then he's now doing these shows in a Fortnite in a video game, there has been this kind of ambiguity around him, almost like a little Michaela or something, that I have had a thought. Then when you start saying, oh, now he's done this project with McDonald's where he's introduced nothing new, just a name, and now the shorts don't exist that he's merchandising, it does fit into this whole
Wow.
Yeah,
idea of a created celebrity that I honestly, before this, I looked him up and I was like, I don't even really know if I know what he looks like. Like I know, I have an idea of what his hair
Wow,
is
this
like.
is...
I was saying this to Jake the other day, that it's like, I've been listening to him for a little while. I couldn't really describe what he sounds like or like what his voice, like it is very ethereal. Like Travis Scott as a concept is very like...
Dude, Travis Scott is the CIA plant.
It's a psyop. I think he's also just savvy because, and again, there might be some 14-year-old listening who's just like, you guys are morons. Like,
Oh, I'm
he's
sure.
actually like deeply connected to his fans. He might also just understand some of the nuances of modern marketing. One thing that I can say as somebody who's kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out, by always using the action figure avatar of himself, which was the cover of one of his albums, and not just the album, like that version of him, the action figure, Travis Scott pops up a lot.
It's in the McDonald's campaign.
Oh, it is in the McDonald's campaign.
It's
can
all
say
the
that
merch.
when I picture him, when I do a Google image search of my mind's eye, one of the top 2 pictures is the action figure, the eternal avatar. You can imagine that when Travis Scott III assumes control of the empire, he might actually still be performing in Fortnite and whatever the modern Neuralink version of it is. There's like a way that Travis Scott can transcend the brick and blood physicality world.
I think it's interesting, though, that you guys said that you're not even sure what he looks like.
We do know what he looks like.
It's honestly, it's an idea of what he looks like. I know, and the thing is, I see him all the time. I mean, but it's something he's always skewing he's covering his face.
That's right.
He is his avatar, and it's obviously like his music, it's like heavily auto-tuned in a brilliant way. I'm a fan. I'm just saying that it has occurred to me before with someone who has so many singles and is so ubiquitous to not really understand, and like to not have a clear picture of what he looks like or be able to describe what he sounds like.
How about this?
It's wild.
Yeah.
Is he the contemporary Steve Miller? I don't know.
Wow.
I don't know what Steve Miller looks like. And
Steve
his
Miller-
songs are completely ubiquitous. It's very middle of the road.
Travis Scott has more hits than Steve Miller.
I'm not bringing this up in a qualitatively negative sense. I'm not trying to bag on Travis Scott. I'm just saying
Travis Scott's Steve Miller and Future is Jerry Garcia. A little wilder, a little weirder. If I'm interpreting what you guys are saying correctly, because like I do feel like I know what Travis Scott looks like and sounds like, but I see your point a little more when I compare him to comparably big hip hop artists. When I compare Travis Scott to Kanye, Drake, even Tekashi 6ix9ine, these are people who
I can picture all of those guys.
And Tekashi 6ix9ine, he's a little too spicy probably to get big endorsements. But Drake, for instance, Drake is big enough and well-known enough that he could get a McDonald's campaign theoretically. But Drake, to get to where Drake is, he had to like become America's sweetheart more. He had to give more of his personality. He had to be more open and be more like a regular celebrity. I think Travis Scott has somehow become as ubiquitous as a Drake or a Kanye or a Tekashi 6ix9ine without doing all that. And that is interesting.
Ezra, would you say that Travis Scott is almost like a Borgesian figure?
I didn't want to say it, but it crossed my mind. I mean, as much as I like to give Greta Van Fleet for understanding the nuances of Borgesian literature and existence, I do think Travis Scott is the celebrity of our times. He understands things better. It's like Kanye is so much more... Okay, here's one thing I could say. So, and I'm sure, again, this has become a little bit of like aging dudes hip-hop hour, but that's okay. That's partially what Time Crisis is. If we were 10 years older and we were talking about Kanye at peak Kanye like 10 years ago, even though we would still be like older and a little more out of the loop, Kanye just used traditional media in such a familiar way. Like everybody knows who Kanye is. Their grandparents talking about, oh, Kanye, he's the man who grabbed the mic from Taylor Swift. Again, it's like familiar, using the typical tools of mass media. You know what he looks like. You know his big iconic media moments. Travis Scott is more elusive. And in that sense, like he's almost more present than, again, to compare him to Tekashi 6ix9ine. And again, this is like has nothing to do with my understanding of music, just my deep love of the Arch Deluxe. But Tekashi 6ix9ine, he's a familiar guy. He's in the middle. Travis Scott is both more than him and less than him. You know what I mean? Tekashi 6ix9ine is brick and mortar, flesh and blood. Travis Scott is like the eternal digital soul and the mysterious nothingness at the heart of existence. You know what I mean?
He's like a ghost in the machine, almost.
He's the ghost in the machine.
Incidentally, I don't know if we'd mentioned this, but Travis Scott is something of a protege of Kanye West's.
Right. It's always been unclear to me what their relationship is.
It seems like Travis was briefly signed to Kanye West's Good Music as a producer, and then I think he struck out on his own, but there's no love lost between them.
Wait, that means...
Well, they were related, basically, for a while.
True. That's true, too.
I've always been slightly confused by this phrase, no love lost. That means that people don't love each other.
Yeah, I thought that was a negative.
Did I use it the opposite way?
No. Yeah, you did.
Well, you know what I mean.
You're saying they're cool. They're cool with each other?
I think they're cool with each other, but wait, no love lost.
It means they never loved each other, so there's nothing lost.
Oh, but okay, I get that, but it could also literally mean the opposite, right? Like, if they love each other and they still love each other, there is no love lost. It's an odd phrase.
They love each other. No, I get it. I mean, I understand it. I've never been 100% clear on that phrase.
So, Jake, I hope that all answers your question about who Travis Scott is. I think if you look at his Wikipedia, say Travis Scott is an American rapper, Borgesian figure, ghost in the machine, and inverted negative space Arch Deluxe of American culture.
Restaurant consultant.
Wait, Jake, one thing. Can you guess what Travis Scott's real name is?
I can't.
He is Jacques Webster II.
It's really not a bad name.
Jacques Webster teaming up with McDonald's.
I mean, I think that's sort of part of his mystique that he has chosen to use another real name as a moniker for...
Well, I was thinking that maybe that was part of the appeal of McDonald's, too, because it's like, it could be an athlete. It could, like Ezra said, it could be a country star. I'm picturing some grandma taking her grandkids to McDonald's and the kids being like, let me get the Travis Scott meal. And the grandma's like, who's that? Is he a football player? No, he's a rapper. Oh, okay.
Well, because it's two first names.
But if it was like the Post Malone meal at McDonald's, it would just be, it wouldn't be as appealing to sort of like Main Street. Be like, what's Post Malone? What's that? Who's that? Like, it would just be confusing to people. Travis Scott, it's like a very like innocuous name. It rolls off the tongue. Easy. The Travis Scott meal.
Right. It's simple. It's kind of a nothing name. See, that's what's funny. This is a guy who he actually had a more interesting name, and he became Travis Scott. It's not like he became like Old Dirty Bastard or Method Man or just like gave himself like kind of like a cool, weird, provocative superhero name. He took like a kind of cool name like Jacques Webster II and became just Travis Scott.
His original name is almost like a Bond villain.
Jacques Webster II. Anyway, so I guess, bottom line.
Well, I feel like I've learned some things.
McDonald's and Travis Scott. I think we barely scratched the surface here. I think we need to go read up on some French philosophy to truly understand this cultural moment.